So that's what I'm saying. The text is like an object. It's gonna change perspective based on where you're standing. I don't know.
Hello?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I missed you, baby sweet. It was a day.
It was a day.
Please tell me you're seeing this too.
From Seattle, we're Drinking the Movies. I'm Taylor Baker.
And I'm Michael Clausen.
Oh, hey, Michael. I haven't seen you in a week.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm okay.
How's your beer?
Oh, it's great. It's this Northwest Pilsner that we just got today for the very first time when we recorded that previous episode.
Still good.
Still good.
Still delicious.
We're going to do some first impressions, even though we're drinking our second sip. I've had a little bit of beer. I'm spurring my sleech.
That's what happens.
We're going to do Amazing Grace. It's a lost documentary on, or I believe it might be a concert film on Aretha Franklin, directed by Sidney Pollack.
Let's do it.
Now, when we see all these cameras and things, you see them out around it, don't be bashful when the camera comes your way. We don't know if it'll get back again. So while it coming your way, get in on it, all right?
Don't moan.
All right, we just watched the trailer for Amazing Grace. What do you think?
Technically,
Yeah.
Audio-wise, I'm very interested in hearing it while I look at a picture.
Totally.
I'm interested in looking at how it was made while I
Yeah.
listen to it. It's very interesting. It was made in a church. As we noted while we were watching the trailer, Mick Jagger is in the church at one point.
Yeah.
These are interesting details. I don't get the sense that something special is happening behind the camera.
Yeah.
The way that maybe I had hoped when I heard Sidney Pollack direct.
Yeah.
How about you?
I would agree. Yeah, the shots we get aren't particularly surprising or anything like that. I think we're seeing her perform. We're seeing people listen and dance and take it in. I think it looks perfectly pleasant. I don't know that I have any reason to be terribly excited about it yet. Yeah. Except that I like her music.
It'll definitely be something I watch just so that I watch things that are contending for the top 10 documentaries of the year.
Yeah.
I definitely want to watch all the ones that are contenders for that. I don't know if it'll make it in there over our next title or some of the others. You know, we've still got the Mr. Rogers documentary.
Yeah.
That's, you know, it's very hard to make it into a list with that.
Yeah.
We've got Minding the Gap this year. We've got Free Solo. You know, there are some special documentaries this year.
Yeah. Yeah. You suggested this one. I had just heard about it within the past, 48 hours.
Oh, interesting.
There's a critic for the New York Times, Wesley Morris, who I like pretty well, whose review I didn't read in its entirety, because I kind of like to wait, but I sometimes just skimmed it, to see what direction it goes. And
which
then
direction
I come
did it
back.
go?
Very positive.
Oh, okay, good.
But
good to hear.
Yeah, super positive. And the brief point he made in what I did read was that this apparently was one that Aretha Franklin did not want people to see. She was not in favor of this being released.
She didn't want them to see the wizard behind the curtain.
Apparently, yeah. So his review is partly saying why you should see it, despite that, which I think is interesting. And I read that and I thought I might come back to this just in case. Sometimes you just want to go in blank.
Definitely.
But I think that's intriguing. It'll be interesting to see why she might not have wanted somebody to see this and what value you do get from seeing it.
That is definitely one of the things I was thinking. You get the general sense that we are seeing behind the scenes here.
Yeah.
And I was getting the general sense that we might not see a Christian woman behind the scenes, which is something that, although it was a terrible documentary, Whitney did accomplish in May of this year. Is, she grew up Christian and maybe wore a Christian cross around her neck, but she didn't behave as one for her life. Yeah. And I was thinking maybe the reason she didn't want this scene is because we're going to see her as someone who isn't, behaving as a Christian.
Yeah, yeah.
Which
a less than glamorous
is
portrait.
definitely something that I like to see.
Yeah, that's equally important.
Yeah.
Show the truth.
Show who someone is.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
they don't need to be something they're not, just so that people accept them. I'm more interested in the best gospel singer of all time not being a Christian, but still being the best gospel singer of all time for Christians. That's more interesting to me.
Yeah, definitely. There's plenty of footage in here of the people there listening to her. You know, sometimes that's
or
half
the people
fun.
in the choir.
Yeah,
Doing you know quite a bit of work.
Totally.
You know, there's like 70 people. It looks like in one of these choirs.
Definitely.
Just belting it out.
Yeah, sometimes in a doc like this, that's half the fun, is seeing the people in the room getting to listen to it there.
Yes.
That's, part of the magic. So, yeah, I think I'm more excited maybe than I said it in the first sentence of this first impression.
Yeah.
But
I'm definitely interested. I don't know if I'll squeeze it in before the end of the year or if it'll be before the Oscars, but it will be before the Oscars.
There you go. Cool.
How about They Shall Not Grow Old from director Peter Jackson?
Let's do it.
I was 16 years old and my father allowed me to go.
I was just turned 17 at the time.
I was 16.
I was 15 years.
When they came to us, they were frightened children and had to be made into soldiers.
All right, boys, here it comes. We're in the pictures.
I gave every part of my youth to do a job.
All right, Michael, we just watched the trailer for Peter Jackson's They Shall Not Grow Old. What do you think?
Very intrigued. I am optimistic. It is a bit surreal to see some of the footage in color, as you would expect. For those in our audience who haven't seen the trailer, all we're really seeing in this 30-second clip, maybe? Not even?
45.
It's
It's a full minute trailer with 44 seconds of content.
Yeah, seeing World War II footage transformed from black and white into color, which I can already see, like, the think pieces coming out when it does come out about what it means to see this in black and white, which is not how we see the world, versus in color, which is how we see the world. It'll just be it'll lead to all kind of conversations about form, right, and what that means for how we watch a movie. I'm very interested. What about you?
I mean, as someone who only sees in black and white, I still noticed when they restored it digitally. There is a clear transformation of clarity in the restored picture being clearer.
Right.
And when it looked like Outlaw King, is how I must put it. Like, all of a sudden, this image looks very tangibly real and clear. And I mean, what did I say? Like, I can't believe this footage is real. Like, as we were watching it, I was like, "What the fuck is this?"
Yeah.
I can't believe this footage exists. I know that World War I was fought, many years after we had strewn single photographs together into a moving image, and I think 1873 might be the first time that we did that. But still, seeing these moving images of men who were dead, presumably in the war, but definitely by now, it's fascinating, because this is a sign of what's to come. Because from this point forward, no man that fights in a war, no woman that fights in a war, will be undocumented.
Yeah.
We will no longer fight a war that we don't have images of.
Yeah.
And that is really affecting, to me at least, because so many of these wars, when we talk about what happened in Greece, or when we talk about what happened during the occupation of any given city, when we talk about the death of American Indians, when we talk about the death of South American Indians, this stuff isn't captured. We have the few cultural artifacts that weren't melted down and sent back to Spain of South America. you know, we have very little of North American Indians, but from now on, it doesn't matter which side of the war you're on.
Yeah.
We're going to have footage of the side that lost and the side that won.
Yeah.
And that's just fascinating from a technical standpoint and from a historical standpoint.
Yeah. Yeah.
A philosophical standpoint even. It changes how humanity will be able to reflect on itself fundamentally. Yeah. And it's just incredible. Like, this is a change about how we can feel compassion for our species.
Yeah. 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 Which makes me very interested in what this narrative will consist of, right? Because the trailer is really just about the form. But what arc or what story this has to tell in light of this footage, I think will be interesting.
Based on the interview that I listened to with Peter, he's not attempting to fabricate any sort of a narrative.
Yeah.
He just is attempting to show what the life was like for them. And he doesn't want to color them as heroes or as victims.
Yeah.
That's what he said, mostly verbatim, you know, me abbreviating it. But that was his goal. So I am definitely interested, because he doesn't have a goal of making something out of nothing. He's not trying to make it fit into the you know, the allegory that we think of when we think of World War I and we think of Peter Jackson. We automatically leap to J.R.R. Tolkien and the Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
You know, it's an easy leap to make, but that's not why he made it, according to him. Which I think this might be kind of like something we're going to get to a little bit later with The Other Side of the Wind. Like, I don't know how much you're saying what you're saying and how much I don't fucking believe an inch of it.
Right. You might just need to see it to believe it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when I see it, I'll know not to believe you.
Right. Did you see a release date for it?
The release date is December 29th in the UK. It had a one-night-only screening on October 16th in the UK as well. In America, it is coming out later. But it is still somehow... I think it might be December 31st. It's releasing in LA and New York at one theater each. It's somehow going to qualify for the Oscars, if I remember correctly.
Makes sense.
But we should be able to get our mitts on it before the Oscars, at least. So our very final lists of the year, whenever those will be, we might need to iron those out.
Cool. I'm excited.
I am too.
When you dance the dance of another, you make yourself in the image of its creator.
I feel like I'm not even here yet. The dumb blank's incredible. 1, 2, 3. The way she transmits her work.
You have to decide, what is it you want to be for this company?
There's more in that building than what you can see, Doctor.
You are living with dangerous people.
Mother Suspiria.
Yes, we are talking about Luca Guadagnino's Suspiria, a remake of Dario Argento's classic
Suspiria.
There you go.
I can proudly say I've seen both these pictures in theater, and Luca's is superior.
Ooh.
And also, this is Luca's best release in the last 2 years. Went there.
Bold claims being laid down.
Throwing it down. I'm leaving it there.
4.5. Feel good with the 4.5.
Oh, it's a high 4.5. It's that 94.
Almost there. Almost to that 5.
Almost there. There's some structural problems that I have with it, specifically the exposition and the, or rather the prologue and the epilogue.
Gotcha.
Would be my problems.
Gotcha.
I definitely like what it does with the feminine spirit. Love that.
In the middle.
Mm-hmm. And
core.
Not to gush for our listeners, but listeners, this is officially Michael's best Letterboxd review of the year.
What?
It's plain and
that
simple.
Can't be true.
It definitely is. That's how bad all your other ones were.
Right. It's important to set the bar low, and then you have nowhere to go but up. It's my strategy.
You definitely had this this astute observation about what is happening as she's dancing, while is it Olga, who is beneath in the mirror room, reflecting in on herself from all these different mirrors, is being folded.
Oh, yeah.
And the way that you explained that in writing was just really well done.
It's a great scene. I was tremendously in the movie during that scene.
I was too. That was when I understood that I didn't understand the movie. That's when I knew that I didn't know, if that makes any sense. And that just kept getting reaffirmed. Like when Mia Goth and Dakota Johnson go into the office, and Dakota Johnson leaves the office and sees what she sees, and then comes back and laughs.
Yeah.
And doesn't say anything to Mia Goth. That's when I really understood that I don't know what I don't know. Like, I just don't know.
Yeah. That's interesting. I mean, was there any point at which you suspected Dakota Johnson as maybe not being as innocent as she is made out to be initially? Do you feel like there was a turning point? Does she become...
I want to tell you yes, but I really didn't know.
I was hoping you might be able to tell me.
In retrospect, I knew. In retrospect, I can tell you. When when it's sealed is when she's drawing the map, and she gets in trouble when she's a little kid. Right?
She's
like that's the signifier that she's this young and she's drawing a map to Berlin. Yeah. But as I'm watching it live, I don't know if she's going to blow the next head up. And every time she blows another head up, I'm like, no fucking way. Yeah. You know, like this is a maddening film, and I loved every inch of it while I was in it. It's the bookends of the prologue and the epilogue that really I don't understand why Luca thought he needed this.
I agree. Don't know that the prologue with Dakota Johnson meeting the psychiatrist in his home added much.
You mean Chloe Grace Moretz?
At the end. At the beginning. When she comes and says... Gotcha. I forgive you, or they're talking about forgiveness. Yes. Yeah. Is that what you're talking about when you talk about the prologue?
That's something I don't mind. When I talk about the prologue, I mean Chloe Grace Moretz. I mean the therapist. And I also mean the therapist's narrative. I don't need that.
Gotcha, yeah.
In the way it's presented. I think it is a very good choice to have it. But, so... I was skimming over just because I forgot of another detail that I had a problem with. The RAF throughout. Yeah. I don't need.
Right.
I don't need Chloe. I don't need the RAF. And I don't need the prologue epilogue. You can get me on board with his love story if you need to. Yeah. During the duration of the film. You do not need this act. Although I appreciate 6 scenes in an epilogue. It was not 6 scenes in an epilogue. It was a prologue, 6 scenes in an epilogue. And I had a slight problem with that claim.
Yeah. I mean, this is not like a period or like a window of history that like I was terribly familiar with going into it. Like I could not have told you.
I just watched 7 Days in Entebbe, so I was like,
is why the same period?
Are you doing? Yeah, 7 Days in Entebbe is about the RAF. It's about this exact moment, except for we're with Rosamund Pike, who is one of the terrorists that kidnapped the plane and all the Jews on the plane.
Got it. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, as they're talking about the plane being hijacked, like, it didn't carry like a ton of dramatic weight for me, just because like it's such a specific incident in history to try and attach to this story of ballerinas. That
are they ballerinas?
Dancers, you're right. I guess in the original it was a ballet academy. Yeah. They're dancers, you're right. Contemporary dance, I guess.
If they were ballerinas, I would have been like, I completely missed a detail.
Exactly. So you're right. It's like I didn't need it, but it does have the effect of just very clearly establishing that this is not like the fever dream, the surrealism of the original Suspiria, where dream logic is the logic of the movie. Like, this is something that is within the world as we know it, within history as it happened.
Technically logical.
Yeah, exactly.
But it goes to too creative lengths to be so.
I would agree. It's almost... so you think that's what like holds you back from a 5?
Yeah.
It's ultimately a detriment.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I do think that there could possibly be a way of editing the current footage.
Yeah.
to maintain everything that there is and get rid of the stuff that isn't so good and bring it there.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like it's all there on the camera.
Yeah.
And I mean, you know, we're being very critical right now, but for each coming at it from a 4.5 and a heart, which is, I think, the highest rated movie we've talked about today.
I think so. Oh, yeah, for sure.
Unless you gave The Other Side of the Wind the 4.5 and the heart like I did.
4.
So it's between the two of us, it's the highest rated movie of the day. So
it is.
Not to, you know, this is a great movie. It just has some logic problems for why these pacing choices were chosen.
That's interesting. So I don't know that I would say pace. I love the pace of it. To me, it was just
in the middle, but the when I talk about pace, I mean intro to epilogue. I mean the whole thing, and the pace at the end and the pace at the very beginning are the pace at the end works better if you don't have the beginning. You know, like, I don't mind that payoff at the very, very end when she comes to visit him and we see the house continuing to live. Right, what is it? Anka and F?
Yeah.
I don't remember what his name is, but
letters,
when we see that house continue to live, that is a great way to fade out. And out of this picture. But it feels like it's to buttress, it feels like it's to bookend the narrative. And I would rather have kind of a roaring narrative that then has this clear, defined ending of things move on. The house has new life, right? Because that's what it is. The house has new life. That the Dance Academy has new life.
Yeah. I've heard that there is a post-credit scene.
I did not
see
it.
I think it's brief. I don't know if it's even that insightful, but I was bummed that I didn't know that.
Yeah, I pulled a Venom. I left.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if it changes much.
There were a few people that stayed in their seats when I left, and I was like, "Why are you doing that?" Right?
It's over.
Luca Guadagnino picture. Timothy Chalamet isn't looking at a fireplace, guys.
Exactly. It was a weird sensation to try to be thinking about how this narrative within the Dance Academy is sort of being mapped onto the historical narrative. I don't know that it ever really lined up for me perfectly, that they were ever perfectly in sync.
I never got that sense either. It's not okay. I do not like Chloe Grace Moretz, but it is not that reason why I don't think she should be in the picture. I don't think that her arc serves the picture narrative wise. And as far as she's spent there. You could have this girl who's missing and have Dakota Johnson get there and not know that it's Chloe Grace Moretz and be just fine. That's just as good. You're not getting anything extra from knowing who's missing, I don't think.
I would agree. It's almost kind of a red herring to have an established
character
actress playing this role, and not much comes from it, really. I guess because it was such a specific set of historical events, I was kind of willing to give it the benefit of the doubt that this did map on in some way, and I was willing to go with it for the sake of the value it has in just making it feel like it's of our world. So that's why, like, people say, I've seen a lot of people say, like, this is way too complicated, like, you don't need any of that. Like, I think if you just kind of go with it, if you're willing to look for the ways it maps on, and I think I will be happy to do that on multiple rewatches. I think you're going to enjoy the craft more.
This is too beautiful of a film for you to not try
to
map onto it. But I still think that it would have been a better film if they didn't try to intermesh these things or intermingle them. It just would have been, because then it wouldn't be constrained, right? Because you can still have the bomb go off. You can still turn on the TV and have them talk about the RAF. But to have a big actress that's a main missing character be part of the RAF and have that be like this thing that's tying together the detective investigation, like, I don't need that. The moment on the stairwell where he says, you helped me rule out Poland is where my wife Anka went. Like, those are great moments. Those are real, tangible, emotional moments that make me feel like I'm part of the world. You can leave that in and get rid of some of this other stuff, not lose this tangible sense of identity of time.
Yeah.
Which I think is maybe what you're saying is so
totally
tangible and good about this picture. Is that it does have a sense of time. I don't think that all of the stuff that gives it a sense of time are needed, though.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, it's long. It's 2.5 hours, I think.
It is, but it wasn't long enough.
Yeah,
Once she started blowing up heads, I was like, I want to stay here forever.
Let's keep going. Yeah. I mean, just the craft itself was just spectacular. Like, I just loved every bit of it.
Yep.
I think that the rhythm and the pace was just perfect. Like, I think it was just super unique in how abrupt, certain scenes would end and how long other ones
would go
dragged out.
And they'd feel like they were going to capitalize, and then they wouldn't.
Yeah.
And then other ones would capitalize instantly when you'd least expect it.
Yeah.
I think that something of note is that, number one, this is Dakota Johnson's best film she's ever been in.
Yeah.
Number two, she makes really good movies when she's in a picture that Tilda Swinton's in.
You're right. This is a pattern. And I like Tilda Swinton here, actually.
What did you think of her mask work?
I thought it was great.
I thought it was mostly good.
Yeah.
There were a few moments where I noticed that she was, because of the consistency of the limp, there are certain moments where she is not bending and walking the way that person would bend and walk, where I did have trouble.
Yeah.
But I was mostly, like I said, it's a 96. Or it's a 94, not a 96.
Yeah.
Like it's real close.
It's weird, even though you sometimes see Tilda Swinton buried beneath all that work.
Sometimes you don't.
You don't, and sometimes I'm still glad and appreciative that it's her under there somehow. I still don't know quite how to explain why I think that's valuable, but I do think it added something for me to know.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't really know why the choice was made.
I don't know either.
I am curious about the end. When that character is naked and prone, if they have a body double in or if they have a prosthetic attached to Tilda, because we do see male genitals, and we feel very if you're a man, you feel very empathetic for him because he feels very exposed, and you're very worried for his genitals as a man. You're like, oh no, you're clutching your own.
Yeah, I heard some people talking about how if it had any potential for anything at the Oscars, it would be for makeup for Tilda Swinton, and how they really hoped the clip would be that clip.
What about
nude and prone?
What about choreography? Is that an Oscar category?
I wish it should be. I don't think it is, not that I know of.
Yeah, that's a travesty. I don't. Casting director. I think it could be nominated for casting director.
I don't know if that's a category. I think that's one I've heard.
Oh, I thought it was. Art direction. I would like to see a nomination for art direction in this. It's got very strong art direction. But otherwise, there's no way that something this eclectic and artistic is going to be considered for cinematography or editing.
Yeah.
I don't know that I would give it best director. Just because I can't necessarily point to where the director's controlling what's happening over the editor and the cinematographer. Whereas I know that Luca is really responsible for this thing being the way it is.
Yeah.
I think that other people looking at it, just because it is so hard to put your finger on what exactly is the director doing in a movie like this.
Yeah.
That I personally would love to see the cinematographer and the editor nominated.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's going to happen. I think Bohemian Rhapsody is a better shot for a cinematographer and editor than this picture, which is really disgusting to say.
Yeah.
Like, it's gross.
Yeah. It's weird. I mean, I think I still feel his presence. Like, to me, there's...
Oh, I do too. But
yeah.
How do you define that for someone voting in these categories?
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of people, myself included... if you watch lots of movies, you watch lots of horror movies, you watch that and you kind of think to yourself, like, this isn't really a horror movie as I know it, right?
But it is horrible.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It is horrible. But I think that speaks to the direction that, like, there is, like, a certain, like, matter-of-factness or kind of everyday look or everyday perspective through which we watch some of these atrocities, right?
Brutalities, visceralities, like it's a stunner.
You know, that's sort of a combination of camera placement, editing, shot duration, right? Like the extent to which all that comes together to give you something that feels unique, I think, is direction, I guess. So you're right. It's hard to point to like one thing because it's about kind of how that comes together. But I think some of those dance sequences are, you know, shot with sort of this.
You want to stop the podcast right now and go see this movie again?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Yep.
See you later, folks.
Later. Yeah, I mean, they're. I don't know. I just feel like where the camera is put and the angles, they consistently kind of surprise me, despite not being like super showy or something. Yeah, exactly.
So for me, the place where this showed up the most, this is like Luca's voice as a director, is the end when she's blowing up heads.
Yeah.
When it goes to that slow-mo frame, but it feels like everything around her is what's moving slow and she's moving fast through it, and it's like you can feel the earth or the air tear, like it's tearing apart in her wake or in front of her because she is so powerful. Like that is what he's bringing as a director, and I don't really know how to define that. It's just you see it and you know it. Like that's there because of him, and no one else could have put that there.
Yeah. God, it's such a good scene.
Dude, right? Like that's I haven't updated my list in quite some time for best scenes or best movies of 2018, but Suspiria is going to be knocking a few pictures out of the best scenes of 2018. What does it mean when you go into a movie with no expectations and it becomes one of your favorite of the year?
Oh, that's a great thing.
You know, like how often does that happen?
Yeah.
For me, it was The Nice Guys. Was like the last one I can finger.
Yeah. For me, it was Good Time, which we've talked about.
I didn't get to respond as strongly to that one, but I like some of the Safdie brothers of their work. Yeah. I mean, before that, maybe Cosmopolis. I had zero expectations, and I just absolutely loved that Cronenberg picture. So this is kind of in that Support the Girls vein for me there, where I was really nervous. I didn't like Call Me by Your Name as much as other people. Yeah. I felt really compassionate towards it. I thought it was a really beautiful thing to look at, but I didn't respond to it well narratively. And I didn't quite think it was as special as everyone else was thinking. I think last year an average would be an 80 to a 96 probably. I was in the 54 to 60 camp. Yeah, it's a 2.5 for me. Really, is what it is. And this one is just so I went in with these really low expectations, and it just
that can help
threw me down. Like he took my eyes and he wrestled me down, and he made me look at this thing. Yeah, and it was so beautiful to look at, but so jarring and revolting. Yeah, but so beautiful, and succulent and spectacular, and just it is one of the best experiences I've had all year at the cinema. Yeah. And I really wish that I could go see it again, but I think it might have left all of our theaters.
I know. I don't think it did particularly well.
It did not
box
do well.
office
I guarantee it did not do well. I was keeping an eye on the seating charts at the dine-in by us, because you can look at the seating charts on the AMC app. Yeah. And I was keeping track all week, because I was picking my day that I was going to go where I could get a decent seat. And, it was not selling well. It was not selling well at all. It was half empty at best the whole time.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably to some extent the same effect that Mother dealt with, right?
Yeah, but Mother is one of the best movies ever made, so let's not put it in Mother category.
Right, but from a marketing perspective, like, Mother was pitched as like a home invasion thriller, which was utterly reductive. Here, you read the summary, and it's like a girl joins a dance academy run by a coven of witches. You're like, oh, it's a horror movie. You're like, well,
yeah, it's
a little complicated.
It's somewhere between It Comes at Night and Mother, right?
Yeah,
in that you can't market this movie correctly. Right, Hold the Dark was another problem earlier this year that we just talked about on the last episode.
Yeah.
About an hour ago.
Yeah. It seems like good word of mouth comes from, people's expectations kind of being met, right? Like, this is just not what people might have thought it would be. Especially...
Maybe, but it's a fucking beautiful movie. Like, that's the problem, to come into movies with expectations. Yeah. And I know that I'm as guilty as sin when we get to the last title of the week with Widows, of having expectations and being completely let down, but... I mean, I still had expectations for this movie because it is a remake of a classic. I saw it in theaters last year. It's very fresh in my mind. Yeah. It's a beautiful original title. But, I mean, this one's better. And that's... I don't like Luca. Like, I don't love him, but this made me, question exactly what he's doing as a director. Yeah. And maybe, I was talking once again about Pain and Gain off the mic and a little bit on the mic with you, and what exactly it might mean for someone to be a designer rather than a director of a film. And I that idea came back up for me with this. Is he's designing, auteur theory definitely applies to this film, but he's also designing something. He's slowly building up the outfits and the innocence, and he's really not just as an author of the lens, but as someone who's designing the very edges of which we're looking, right? During these transitions of the scenes, we have the Suspiria art stylings, decorating the outside of the frame. Like, he is designing us into the sense of whatever is happening to us. All I can say is voyeurism, but he's manipulating our voyeurism. He's designing us into a corner, kind of. And I'm very fascinated by him as an auteur moving forward, and I would love to move backwards through his filmography next summer, since the spring's booked. The word design, I think, is interesting because it does feel, to me, it does imply, in a good way, like an object kind of to be observed, rather than in a little bit of a different way from a story that I think is super, super involving. I don't think this is like the kind of character-driven or involving kind of movie that a lot of horror movies can be, where you are perfectly aligned with a person subject to a scary villain, right? I think I read the Richard Brody at the New Yorker, who said it was the cinematic equivalent of a designer t-shirt. It's very interesting. He meant that as a criticism. I'm like, I think that's a great way to put it, in a good way. It does feel designed and orchestrated, and I think in the best possible way. I think that's a great thing. I think that the meticulousness here is just a sign of kind of devotion to the craft. So I think I would take those same words and use it as praise. Yes. Yeah, right. There's some designer t-shirts that look stupid. Yeah. There's some that look really cool. And you're like, how much does that cost? And you're like, fuck no. Yeah. But the Weeknd's wearing it, so you're like, it's kind of cool anyways. It's like one of the designer t-shirts that the Weeknd would wear. Yeah, exactly. Not the designer t-shirts that Kanye would wear. Yeah, exactly. Because sometimes it does feel like you're just watching performance art. Yeah, right? I think that a few reviews on Letterboxd specifically called this an art house film or an art house exploitation film. Yeah, and I don't know which is more true. I think both are extremely true, but it's somewhere in there. Yeah, I would agree. I mean, are there many people who you would recommend it to? No. I don't know if there are many. No, there's not. But I can say that if you're open to seeing it, I think that you have to. Yeah. Because whether or not you come away enraged and grossed out, or if you come away enthralled and stupefied, you will have a cinematic experience that you can't really get somewhere else. And as I'm saying these words, I'm starting to understand what you mean by your comparison to Mother. It is like watching Mother. It is something that will affect you, and whether or not you take it well, you will be affected, and that is a beautiful thing to say about a film.
Yeah. I mean, I think both these movies can be discussed in terms, especially Mother, but both can be discussed in terms of their themes for days and weeks and months. But I think the sensory appeal and how like distinct they feel, just how they feel like they're really own unique things that just are so unfamiliar.
They're each the word palpable.
Yeah. Many movies might be able to try to work with similar themes, but I just don't expect to watch any other movie that feels quite like these movies feel. You know.
Just a small note before we move on.
Yeah.
As I was walking into the theater, the ticket taker was talking to one of his coworkers about the film that I was going to see, and he didn't know what my ticket was, and he was just talking about Suspiria, and he's like, he's talking to his coworker, and he's like, "You haven't seen it yet? You idiot! I've seen it 4 times."
Love it.
And I was like, 4 times? I'm probably gonna hate this movie. Yeah, you know, because normally when a ticket taker says it's the best movie, I'm like, You know, the last time someone said that was like Hurricane Heist.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm quite concerned.
Yeah.
But this is, you know, just a small anecdote of there are certain people that are really going to love this, that are just normal people. And then there's normal people that are going to hate. Like, I couldn't look my mom in the eyes and tell her to watch this movie.
Oh, no. I wouldn't
couldn't
either.
look my dad in the eyes and tell him to watch this movie.
Yeah.
But, like, my stepmom, maybe. You know, there's certain people that could really like this journey. Or at least be affected by it in such a way that they don't regret having seen it.
Yeah.
Not necessarily that you respond positively to it, but that you don't regret that you saw it.
Yeah.
Is almost more of the marker of whether or not you should watch this.
Yeah. I mean, it is interesting. Like, I could see some people watching this, and, you know, we praise it as feeling so kind of distinct and unique. They would say something felt off, and it's like, exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Like that is why we clap at the end of it, because it was off.
Yeah. I was like just thinking about how many movies I've watched this year, which is because of MoviePass and AMC A-List, which is easily
and the podcast and Filmstruck,
way more movies
Netflix,
than I've ever watched in my life. Yeah. When you do finally watch something that just feels as distinct as this, you just love it that much more.
Yes, you do. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. So, final notes. Mia Goth is incredible. Dakota Johnson, incredible. Tilda Swinton, incredible. The supporting cast, very, very good. Chloe Grace Moretz,
Fair enough.
Your final thoughts?
Go see it while you can, because I don't know that it'll be around very long. Tom York's score, that was great.
Oh, yes.
Beautiful.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Wonderful.
Very, very good.
Yeah.
Very
his
very
bandmate,
good.
Johnny Greenwood, gets a lot of praise for all of his scores. Tom York's like, hey, I could do that too. He proves he does.
I can do it better.
It's pretty solid work.
Just ask me.
Quite nice.
To the other side of the wind we go.
Let's do it.
Just like me and God, how could you tell us apart?
Maverick's new movie?
The Other Side of the Wind.
What's that about the movie?
We don't talk about the movie.
So you old guys are trying to get with it. Is that what this movie's about?
Well, we don't actually know.
What do we know? Jake is just making it up as he goes along.
So this Orson Welles picture, you know, came out as it was scheduled. 2018, started production, 1960? 70? 60?
Pretty quick production period, I think.
Yeah. Nice and short. We watched this in 4K at your...
Ultra HD
Ultra
4K.
HD at our Queen Anne studio. You know, we've got a few different studios. We're at the North Seattle studio right now. We watched this one at the Queen Anne studio. Got a lot of paper coming in to drink in the movies. Mm-hmm. And I mean, we didn't exchange much conversation as the picture went on, but I did request we pause it for restroom break.
For some discussion
and
as well.
And then I asked you kind of a leading question to see if you were going where I was, and then I explained to you what I was seeing.
Yeah.
And then we watched the documentary afterwards. using the documentary, using that kind of discussion, did you, in reflection now, have you noticed anything different about the picture than when we departed?
Since watching the documentary, I think the documentary enriched it to some degree. I don't know that it's necessarily like changed the angle at which I look at it. Sounds like maybe it did for you.
It brought a higher definition or a higher resolution.
Yeah,
like it didn't change anything, but
Gotcha.
I saw it very much more clearly.
Yeah. Sometimes you see a making of and it completely like
shifts the perspective.
I don't know that it was one of those experiences.
Higher resolution.
And it definitely deepened my appreciation for it, which I think is a sign of success of the documentary. I guess we'll kind of talk about that separately.
I think we kind of have to talk about them together.
Really,
to be honest with you.
It's really hard to separate the two now.
I don't. I mean, when we talk about the documentary, we'll talk about it. But I think we should use the documentary to inform this conversation.
Pretend we haven't
as much as we
seen
have
it
to.
now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely think that the documentary enriched it, but didn't change my feelings for it. Just kind of deepened them, I guess. But yeah, I loved it. 4 with the heart. You gave it a 4?
4.5.
4.5. Feel good.
Yeah, it's never gonna go down. It's only gonna go up.
I like it. Great viewing experience.
Very good.
It probably would have been like a 3 without the Ultra HD 4K, right?
No, but it wouldn't have been as you know.
Yeah.
Like it's hard to put your finger on, but it's the word ass. It wouldn't have been as.
Yeah. I mean, thinking back to the documentary, they sort of explicitly talk about Orson Welles poking fun, or at least kind of, teasing some of the European art house cinema that was coming out at the time. And I see that in retrospect. I maybe didn't feel that a ton in the movie.
I don't believe that for a second.
No?
No. I think that he wanted to tease it, but what he really was jealous of it.
Oh, that's interesting.
No, I think it was envy. I think what we're seeing is envy, because what we see in The Other Side of the Wind, in that movie that's inside of The Other Side of the Wind, is such a special looking movie, such a beautiful looking movie, and it's the most over edited part of the entire movie, which we find out in the documentary. It's the thing he spent the most time on. So to me, that doesn't say he's making fun of something. That says he's envious of something and he wants to do it better without going to their level. He's doing it at his level. That makes sense. And that's also brought about because of the documentary. Because we see how little money he had and how he was acting to direct and how he had no money and how he was working. And these other directors that are doing these art house films just get money to direct their art house films, and he might have been very bitter and envious of that. And this was maybe him taking out not only his anger at them, but his anger at Hollywood. And this thing conglomerated the two together.
Yeah, that's interesting. This is like just a slightly different angle from which I think I saw it, which was mainly maybe that he did seek out or did want to poke fun at it, but was still just too good of a director to not make that inner movie as good as it is, right? Like,
but it's better than the outer movie.
You think so?
Yeah, I think that your review illustrated it best. You would rather, or you still want to see that movie more than you wanted to see the movie we watched, right?
I do, very much. But I mean, I think like for a good part of the outer movie, I was able to take the inner one relatively seriously until like it's probably within like the last 15 minutes or something. You see like the giant inflatable cock, right? Which for me, like it literally was not until that point that I thought like this is like sarcastic at this point.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
There's a lot of phallic imagery before then.
Right, but I don't know that it was quite so deliberately tongue-in-cheek, I guess, until that point where he was like, okay, I dare you to ignore this.
Just briefly, I knew in the back of my head who the interviewer reporter that keeps bothering him, the young gal was. Like, I understood it, but I didn't know exactly who that person was until we watched the documentary.
Oh, yeah.
And when we know for a fact that that's Pauline Kael, I was just elated. And I feel like we need to do a deep dive sometime when we have time on the show into maybe her top pictures that she ever reviewed, and just bring the listeners in on that, watch it for ourselves, and talk about it, because if she was so affecting to be a character in his magnum opus, I think that she's probably a very special critic. And I can't wait for that documentary whenever we get the chance to see it.
I would never have known without the documentary that was maybe the person that this was meant to imitate.
But you did get like the sense, right? Because she is so just direct and brutal in her interrogation lines. It just like, it's kind of that thing in the back of your head where you're like, I feel like it's Pauline, but I don't know. We didn't know.
Well,
I mean, felt that way.
It makes sense in hindsight, but like, I just don't want to profess to have known. And
I definitely felt it. I didn't know it, but I felt it.
Did you like Peter Bogdanovich?
I did.
Yeah,
I did. I liked his dual role.
Yeah, me too. I
definitely appreciate it more after the documentary than I did beforehand. One thing. Now I'm jumping a little bit to the documentary, but they talk a little bit in the documentary about their falling out, and Orson Welles criticizing him or making fun of him on a late night show.
Yeah. I was a little confused about that. That was actually
one. Burt Reynolds, right? Burt Reynolds and Orson making fun of him.
I wasn't sure why. I kind of wanted to know a little bit more about why that happened. I don't think the documentary made that very clear for me.
I was looking at his filmography.
Yeah.
And around that point in time is when he no longer made good movies.
Around the time of the
Other Side of the Wind. The end of the Other Side of the Wind. When Orson kind of did that, he was no longer making those good movies. That signaled he would be a great director. And he's not making them now. This is his first release that I think is getting unanimous positive praise. So, I mean, I see why, and I definitely understand why Orson was doing it. Because Orson was bitter. He didn't Peter just kick him out of the house and made Orson actually acknowledge that he is a failure and that he has been mooching, although Orson is an incredibly talented, powerful idea, he's still just a man who's scared at bottom. He was kicked out of the place that he felt secure, and it had to acknowledge who he was as a person, which is someone that wasn't deriving wealth or working very hard, or making his own way. And I think that he resented that, and he was instead of acknowledging his own faults, taking it out on Peter.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's an interesting relationship.
It's the master-apprentice relationship, right?
Exactly. Yeah, and that line at the drive-in, right at the end of The Other Side of the Wind, is just that interesting kind of capstone where he says, I think he says, "Daddy." He says, "What I do, Daddy." It's a funny line, but also seems to sort of underline his frustration, like with "What the hell, man," and that fissure that seems to have sprouted between them. But I also just think like he's just so kind of visually appropriate for the role, because John Huston is so tough and kind of bitter, and Bogdanovich kind of has that almost kind of like soft puppy dog kind of look.
Innocence.
I just think they have like a really kind of thrilling chemistry between them.
I definitely agree. What do you think of John Huston's performance?
Oh, it was great. I really liked it.
Do you think Orson Welles was correct in the documentary when he said, I should have kept the part for myself? It's the best part.
I think John Huston was right for the role.
I definitely agree, but I do think that that's one of those roles where I would be fascinated if he didn't trust John Huston and he reshot everything with himself as well.
Yeah.
Like, that's one of the things that I wish would have happened, you know?
Yeah. What's interesting, only because I don't have a lot to say about it, but I watched F for Fake like a couple days before, where Orson Welles is a character in that one, kind of, and it's more of like a visual essay. And I do like that The Other Side of the Wind feels like a story, like a very clear narrative. It might have felt even too explicitly self-referential to have had Orson in the role here. Yeah. I think I like just that additional layer of distance we get with John Huston there. And he just looks good. So grizzled and...
drinking liquor and smoking cigars.
He just looks good smoking a cigar, right?
So does Orson, though.
I know. Who smokes it better? I don't know.
Question film critics will be answering for the end of time.
Yeah.
I guess, what do you think about the parts that we definitely feel quite certain Orson edited in the beginning?
What are you thinking of?
Do you remember the incredible fast cuts in the beginning?
Gotta be more specific. Incredibly fast. I mean, a lot of it felt really fast.
So the beginning of the film, to me, felt more. It felt like it had more fingers on it. It felt like it really had been gone through. This is not the film inside the film.
Yeah,
this is just the film when everyone's shooting everyone, and we have all these crazy cuts.
Yeah,
wham, 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 and we're cutting from each cameraman, and they're all looking at John Huston, and we hear these cameras flashing, and everybody asking questions. And do you remember that kind of supercut?
Oh yeah.
Did you enjoy that?
Totally. Oh okay. yeah. I mean, I think that's the highlight of the movie.
Yeah,
is the editing itself. Otherwise, I think this party might lack the excitement that the editing gives it.
Definitely. If I remember correctly, we were both quite winded, just attempting to keep up with the picture at that point.
Definitely. I mean, there are no easy character introductions, right? Like, you're just picking it up as you go. Who is who as you watch them kind of interact. You're like, okay, I guess this is, a critic or something like that.
Or a reporter. I don't know.
This is someone else. This is another crew member or something like that. There is no hand holding by any means.
He does not help you out.
No, not at all. And you don't want a director to. You want a director who gives you the opportunity to make connections for yourself.
Sometimes you do. This is not a movie that would have benefited from it.
Yeah. It's just having the dots put out there for you through the edit, and you're connecting them yourselves.
The other master edit scene, which we come to find out about in the documentary, that I don't think you or I had a clue while we were watching the bathroom scene.
Oh yeah, great scene.
How edited it was. But after watching the documentary, we know how edited it was. What an incredible scene, right?
Great scene. I don't really know what to make of it thematically. If you have something, by all means. But
I do, but I'd have to watch it, and then I'd have to just uncork my mouth and just splash ideas out.
Work through it. Yeah.
You have to watch it, and then you have to talk about it, and then watch it and talk. There's no way to reflect on it and have anything.
Oh yeah, it's hard because it's not like I remember what immediately precedes or follows it, but I do. You so clearly remember all the doors closing and the faces behind them, right?
I can tell you that it felt like reverse Lolita.
Oh, that's interesting.
That's how it felt.
Yeah,
that's as much as I can say about
there you
that
go.
scene.
That's it for me.
The car scene is interesting, knowing that it was Peter Bogdanovich in one of those scenes.
Yeah,
you're right.
Great scene.
That they had their paraplegic friend in a wheelchair with flashlights, and they pushed him past so that it seemed like they were driving down the road while the rain was pouring from the hoses. Half of the appreciation of this film comes from watching it. Half comes from watching the documentary, so you can even understand how to appreciate what you just watched.
Yeah, and even
it's very hard to talk about them separately.
If you just let go of, making sense of a lot of it, I just think it looks great. even though some of these shots are
really
so
does.
fast, you still think to yourself time and time again, like, wow, that was a great shot. There's like there's a lot of candles throughout this party, which is odd. But some of those candlelight
that's because
shots.
the power goes out.
Oh, that's right. You're right. I forgot about that. I was
in
just thinking about these shots in hindsight, out of context. I was like, why were there candles? You're right. It's because the lights go out. But I had these shots in my memory of the candle lights and them reflecting off Peter Bogdanovich's glasses.
Mm-hmm.
Again, just the sensory appeal. For somebody who's not interested in movies and not interested in what this has to do with Orson Welles or his history, I think could still get a lot of satisfaction out of just the thrill you get from the rate at which it's cutting from all these different perspectives.
From just looking at this movie.
Totally.
I don't have much more to say about this particular movie because how much is documentary centric about the appreciation. Feel like moving on?
Let's do it.
It's a great movie. 4.5 from me, 4 from you.
Done.
The Other Side of the Wind is the crazy picture. It's not a work of fiction. It's a little of everything. It's kind of a departure in movie making.
Orson Welles was the ultimate independent filmmaker.
Somewhere between Zen master and God.
They'll Love Me When I'm Dead.
Directed by, I forget his name, Morgan Neville.
Neville.
He did Won't You Be My Neighbor.
Oh.
That a good year.
Of fame, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. I did look at his IMDb. Too many IMDbs this week.
Yeah.
This is a great documentary. It made me appreciate the movie we just talked about so much more.
Yeah.
I ooze love for this. I didn't rate it particularly high, 3.5, maybe 4.
How could it be higher though? It's in a way it just feels like a bonus feature. I don't know. That sounds like a criticism.
Feels like
but...
the like something you would normally get in the the of a Blu-ray.
Yeah. Which I want. That's not a bad thing. It's just
makes
you don't
the
give
Blu-ray
those
better.
5s. Those aren't masterpieces. They're they're just accoutrements.
Extras. Yeah.
Is that the right word?
Accoutrement.
I think that's the right word. Is that an appetizer or is that just a side dish?
We're talking about it.
It's
We're
one of those.
trying to pronounce it correctly. Don't get into what it actually means.
Whatever.
Is his name Gary, the cinematographer?
Yeah, I think that sounds right.
This documentary really brought him to life and made me appreciate him quite a bit.
Definitely.
I don't remember his last name, but definitely a special person. One thing that happened while I was watching this is I really wanted to try to make a point. Since Amazon decided to be a total asshole and not release Don Quixote, hopefully we'll get it by next year. Mm-hmm. And I would like, when we get it, to try to find the working version of Orson Welles' Don Quixote and pair them together. I thought that would be a nice pairing for the podcast.
Yep. Just need Amazon to do their part.
Well, Amazon's dropped out, so we'll see if we ever get Don Quixote.
That'd be cool.
Small problems. It's not like Michael can do anything to fix these problems, guys.
Sorry, folks. No can do. But, I gave it a 3.5. That's what you gave it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
3.5 or 4. Somewhere in there.
Yeah. Either one's fine.
Either one is very similar.
Yeah, I think I gave it a 4 initially, and then I kind of realized I might never watch this again.
Yeah.
Seems odd to give it... I don't know. It's great.
So the one thing this did is it definitely made me feel like, because there's so much footage of The Other Side of the Wind, that we haven't seen the final version yet. And it feels like this is one of those magnum opuses that will never truly be finished. And this documentary really brings about how Orson didn't ever feel like it was really done and didn't want it to be done. And I think that if we treat it as a living film that hasn't yet seen its final cut, that'll be better for everyone.
Yeah.
Like, I would like to see a different take. I would like to see an editor overpaid by Netflix for a year to try to do with the end what Orson did with the beginning, as far as those really rapid fast cuts.
Yeah.
Just because why not? We live in this point in time where enough eyeballs are going to look at this that you could pretend it's profitable
Yeah.
And it is such a masterwork that I would like to see multiple interpretations of it. I don't want this to be the final interpretation, and I don't think that Orson would either. I think that he would like to know that people are still trying to cut the right version of the film that he shot that he never thought could be finished.
Yeah, I mean, I forget how many hours they said of footage they ultimately had, but to think about...
I feel like it was 80.
Yeah, because they originally had the actor who was not Peter Bogdanovich playing that part, right? They basically shot almost the whole thing, most of it, and then he's like, yeah, you're not right for it.
Yeah.
That's just insane.
But amazing.
Yeah. That's
Orson.
That's
insane,
that's what you
but
want
amazing.
from a director, right? To care about their work that much, right? That they're willing to scrap it.
Yeah.
That's what made me think about. I know you haven't seen his stuff yet, or maybe you're not excited, but there's that director I've talked about, Xavier Dolan, who
I'm interested.
Yeah,
lukewarm interested. I don't want to get my hopes high and then be let down because then it won't be of service to him.
Yeah, I don't think it's got.
I'd rather have low expectations and enjoy it.
Yeah.
So it's a 3.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think it's gotten great reviews so far, but his next movie is called The Death and Life of John F. Donovan, I think.
Yes.
And he shot a bunch of footage.
Isn't that a Christopher Abbott picture?
Yeah.
No?
Is that right? I don't think it is Christopher Abbott. It's
John
the guy
Snow.
from Jon Snow. Exactly. I was trying to remember his name.
Yeah.
He shot a bunch of footage with Jessica Chastain and then cut her out of it.
Good.
She wasn't right.
Yeah.
Which
she's been off.
Yeah,
The Juilliard kids are off right now.
Yeah. Anytime you just you hear these little snippets about a director's willingness to make those sacrifices, just can't help but pique your interest, right?
Oh yeah.
You're like, man, what was better? Because I don't know, you just want people to care about their craft.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much footage there is in total. I don't remember what the documentary said, but it just is astonishing to think about what the total number of hours spent on this project was. And
the legal battles and the efforts he went to try to get financing and what happened with the financiers that he had after what happened in the Middle East. It's who knew that the Arab Spring would affect an Orson Welles picture, right?
Yeah, it is kind of surreal, for sure.
It's a good documentary. I think everyone that watches The Other Side of the Wind should watch it, but they should watch The Other Side of the Wind first. Totally. I don't have that much more to say about this documentary. This is maybe the shortest review we have for one of our pictures.
I would agree. Yeah. If you watch The Other Side of the Wind, watch it. If you don't watch The Other Side of the Wind, don't watch it.
Yeah.
Right?
Unless you love Orson Welles and you're not watching The Other Side of the Wind for some
you
weird
stumble
reason.
on this without knowing who Orson Welles is, don't watch it.
I don't know who you are, how you got here. But I have a very particular set of skills, and that set of skills is telling you what order to watch Orson Welles in.
I don't know if the algorithm on Netflix could jack something up and put this on people's watch list ahead of The Other Side of the Wind.
Every time I turn my Wii U on, it tells me to watch The Other Side of the Wind. And I'm like, I already watched it on a different Netflix account, assholes. I gave it a thumbs up on my account. You think I need to watch it again?
What more do you want from me?
Just let me watch Frasier.
Pushy, man.
Widows?
Widows.
My husband left me the plans for his next job. All I need is a crew to pull it off.
Why should we trust you anyway?
Because I'm the only one standing between you and a bullet in your head.
That's what I've learned from men like your late husband and my father, is that you reap what you sow.
Let's hope so.
On to our last movie for the episode, Steve McQueen's Widows.
This was, I believe, your most anticipated feature film of the year. Is that correct?
It was up there, for sure.
What was higher? Just out of curiosity myself. Because I got the sense that it was.
It's a good question. Going into the year, what was at the top of the list? This was up there. First Man was probably up there. We heard about that one so long ago, it feels like. That had been on my radar. I don't really remember now. At the start of the year, Support the girls, actually.
Well, I mean, during the year, probably.
Yeah.
Just like which movie after experiencing this year, because we're at the end of it, whether or not we want to admit it.
Yeah.
Is this the one that you had the highest expectations for?
Actually, the one that we still haven't seen that I think I probably have been most excited for is If Beale Street Could Talk.
Really?
Probably.
Interesting. Yeah, it is the only movie that I've seen you read a book for.
Yeah, right. So. Exactly. That proves how excited I am.
Yeah.
I read a book.
He's willing to read about 186 pages of large font.
Yuck. Reading.
But this is up there.
Definitely.
This is pretty high up there. It is
definitely
not that good of a movie.
You don't think so?
No, I don't. It's constrained by its narrative. A thought that I had quite consistently while I was watching this was, Gillian, don't adapt someone else's book anymore. Like, never again.
Interesting.
Gillian's writing should be her own. Like, if she's going to live or die off of being a screenwriter, it should be off of her own work.
Yep.
I don't want to see her adapt someone else's book again. Because I feel like she was constrained by what the book did and what Steve wanted. So she couldn't give... I never felt her coming through, except in these really brief moments that I don't even know that I felt her or if I felt McQueen. Like that opening tongue kiss, right? Like I didn't know whether... I feel like that's McQueen from Shame. Like I feel like that body... the body depiction through the lens is very McQueen. But I also question whether or not it could be Gillian. You know, and I never saw her voice come through. And I never... I personally don't want to ever watch another Gillian Flynn screenplay where I don't feel her voice come through. Because she has such a great voice. And it's such a shame that I didn't feel it come through.
So, what what is the tone you felt and what was the tone that you think she might have provided? I don't know. Yeah.
The tone that that's the thing. This is the same thing as too many screenwriters. I don't feel like there was enough room for her voice. Because McQueen is an auteur. Or I believe he's an auteur. Which means someone that's working behind the lens and in front of the lens. Even though he's not an actor, he's still working in front of the lens. He's manipulating what's in front of the lens in such a nuanced way that he is not only weaving the tapestry in front of the lens as well as behind it, and he assisted with the screenwriting process.
Yeah.
He's listed above Gillian as a screenwriter.
Yeah.
And they're adapting a novel called Widows.
Yeah.
That she didn't write. So I found her voice lost. The things that I would point to where I think that I felt her are things where I don't know if I'm feeling her or Steve.
Yeah. I could see that. It doesn't feel like...
Did you feel like her? Did you feel like you could sense her anywhere?
Not really, and I'm fine with that. I mean, to me, this isn't Gone Girl. This is not Sharp Objects, right? This is a director's film to me. This feels like a Steve McQueen movie.
Do you think he could have? Do you think he couldn't have made this movie without her?
I don't know. It's hard to say.
I feel like he could have made it without her, and that's maybe my biggest complaint. Like Gillian is such a talent. I don't want her wasted. It's kind of how I feel about J.K. Rowling and this last Fantastic Beasts movie. Like, she's such a talent. Why are we wasting it? Like, okay, you're gonna make a Fantastic Beasts movie. Spend $350 million on special effects and giant creatures then, because whatever the hell I just watched was not worth it.
Yeah, I mean, I think we maybe then watched it kind of from different angles. I mean, if you go in looking for Gillian Flynn, I think you don't get that.
No.
Right? But whether it's Steve McQueen's voice over hers, I think the product I like.
I think it might have been that we spent so much time on Sharp Objects. She's such a strong feminine narrative storyteller, that when I saw this was an all-female narrative, I really set my expectations quite lofty. And I was really, really, really let down.
Yeah.
And I did not like the double turn
The double turn? What do you mean?
Liam Neeson's.
Oh,
arc.
him coming back?
Yeah. I
Gotcha.
did not care for that.
Yeah.
I didn't generally care for it. It was decent. The performances were all right. Michelle Rodriguez surprised me. She wasn't bad.
Yeah.
Elizabeth Debicki was fantastic. Viola was okay. It's not her best performance by a long shot. Cynthia Erivo was wasted.
Oh, come on. She was great.
Oh, no. She's too good.
I mean, it's
when
not,
I
it's
say
ensemble.
wasted, I mean she did not have a 9-hour part.
Right. It is, yeah. There's only so much dialogue to go around here.
As a star of the show, she's Lucy Boynton status.
Yeah, pretty much.
She's
Lucy
wasted if
and
she doesn't
Cynthia.
get 9 hours out of a 1.5-hour movie.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you kind of go back to that adage that a film is a director's medium, TV is a writer's medium, I think Gillian Flynn is maybe better suited for something like Sharp Objects, where I think her voice is felt, whereas regardless of what their contributions are, I just like the product. It's hard to know. I mean, I could see her maybe playing a role in figuring out how to just take something off the page and get it on the screen, but him saying, I'm the filmmaker, like, let's tweak this for the sake of shooting it. I think I'm maybe more open to collaborations than you.
To me, just to kind of explain where I'm coming from, if I was to pretend that I could be Steve McQueen and that I had Gillian Flynn access, I would ask her to adapt the book as a screenplay, and then as the incredible director I am as Steve McQueen, I would take a bunch of liberties and cut how I want.
Yeah.
But I didn't feel like she adapted the book as a screenplay and then he did what he wanted, which is maybe how I envisioned what this collaboration would look like.
Yeah, so had she done that, what do you think would have changed?
I think that he would have used visual imagery to communicate storytelling a lot better instead of relying on his ability to manipulate the dialogue.
Gotcha.
Because I didn't feel like the dialogue particularly did anything great.
Gotcha.
And I didn't feel that the visuals particularly did anything great. And I definitely expected great visuals.
Oh, I thought it looked so good. That's like where I think that's where most
it never
of my...
looked bad, but I don't think it ever looked great. I think I agree, it looked good. It did look good.
Yeah.
But when did it look great?
Oh, I think right from the get-go.
You liked that van explosion.
I think the van explosion was
I've
great.
seen it in the trailer too many times where I was like, okay, give me the next one. And I never got a next one. I got a flashback to the same sequence.
Yeah. That's fair. I think that opening kiss is particularly startling because of how sort of aggressive it is. And I think cross-cut with the intensity of that chase really added up to more than either of those scenes could have been in themselves.
I believe you. I don't get that, though.
Yeah. I mean, I think about the cross-cutting in something like Suspiria, and I think this is equally effective to a completely different end.
Which one did you rate higher?
They're both 4.5s.
What?
Widows, I've gone back and forth
was
between.
a 4 yesterday.
I know. I've changed it and
I had a plan about how to attack you with my words, and then you shift the math on me.
Widows, I've gone up and down. It's definitely not a 5. Kind of a 4, 4.5. I can't really decide. I've been moving it back and forth.
Okay, I thought it was a 4. So I was coming into this with some assumptions about it being a 4.
Gotcha.
And us only being a star away. And I was like, okay, we're pretty similar, but a 1.5 stars. Now
give it a 3?
Give it to me. It's a 3.
Yeah.
It's a high 3. It's a 64. Rounded down, that's a 3. You gotta take the letterbox star system into account.
Yeah.
I am beginning to feel, after watching this many movies for the year, just because of my goal and because of the show, I'm really starting to feel the restraints of the letterboxd.
Oh yeah,
and
for sure.
I'm definitely considering moving forward, doing what some other reviewers do, and just doing an out of 100.
It's weird. See, I go the opposite way. Sometimes I'm tempted to just not rate. I go the other direction.
Oh, there's lots of movies that I don't feel comfortable rating, but some of the movies that I do want to rate, like I'd like to explain why it's a 3 and that it is a high 3.
Yeah. I thought the cross cutting at the beginning was great. I think how Viola Davis's relationship with Liam Neeson is recontextualized throughout the film as we flash back, I thought was great.
I just wasn't there for that. Yeah. I didn't care. I was on Viola's side, and once I knew he was alive, I was, And then anytime you cast Carrie Coon in a movie, and I don't spend the whole movie with Carrie Coon.
Who's Carrie Coon?
I get a little bit bitter. That is the girl that he left Viola Davis for.
Ah, got it. Yeah,
she was also the one of the CG villains in Avengers: Infinity War. Oh. And I nudged you on the shoulder and I said, "That's Carrie Coon." You said, "Who's that?"
Ah,
I was like, "You've never watched The Leftovers, Michael. You piece of shit."
Next time I see her, I'll be sure to ask, "Who's that?"
Yeah, Fargo season 3, The Leftovers.
There you go.
She's a fantastic actress, and you're just wasting away not watching her.
Just had a supporting role here. I thought Daniel Kaluuya was awesome.
He
loved
was
him.
Brutal. I fucking hated him. He was so good. Like, he made me hate him. I went from empathy, like, you were in Get Out, dude. Like, I feel so sorry for you. I hope you're okay. To I hope you die.
Bad dude.
And he did.
Easily one of my favorite supporting characters in a long time.
How about that stab of the paralyzed guy trying to figure out where he can feel?
And great wide shots there, of 4 to 5 bowling lanes, them squared right in the middle. Just great shots. And then he doesn't have a ton of screen time, but his presence, I just think, kind of lingers from scene to scene. You're like,
it does.
He's going to show up again.
Because he's in the background of a lot of the Viola Davis scenes as well.
Yeah.
What do you think of Brian Tyree Henry?
I thought he was solid.
Yeah,
I liked him.
Yeah.
Paperboy,
all about that.
Yeah, he had a more interesting balance of sort of menace and vulnerability. Mm-hmm. Right, he's nervous about actually getting elected, but is also intimidating when he needs to be. I thought his nuances felt right. I remember, I think it was during First Impressions, you said you were hesitant or skeptical about Michelle Rodriguez.
I was very.
Did she, what did you think?
She was good.
Better?
She was
okay?
She was
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
She wasn't bad. She wasn't great. But she was okay. Like, she didn't completely detract the way that I thought she would. Because I am so... that's the other thing he did, was he played her against her character type. Which I thought was really smart. Like, you're going to cast her... me included, thought you were going to play her into her character type. She's going to be the one that's using the guns, right? First thing we see is she couldn't even hit the target.
Yeah.
Like, he played her right. Like, she did feel like the fish out of water.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then having Elizabeth Debicki seem like this innocent girl who's actually, like, a total go-getter and a badass.
Yeah.
Was great.
Great character.
Another huge problem with the movie, they casted one of the greatest supporting actresses working today. She was in the immense success, The Disaster Artist, last year. Her name is Jackie Weaver.
Oh, yeah.
And she was used to quite a great scarcity in this film. She has about one great scene with Elizabeth Debicki, and then she's gone. And that's just a travesty. You need more Jackie Weaver everywhere you can get her.
Another solid supporting role.
Mm-hmm.
Her presence is huge, despite the short screen time.
She's like Method Man.
Yeah, exactly.
She really brings
makes it count. Very good.
Jackie Weaver and Method Man. You heard it here first, folks.
Oh, yeah. I liked Robert Duvall, Colin Farrell's dad.
He was very good, right? That's that this is the first time we've talked about him since the Joaquin Phoenix picture we talked about earlier.
Oh, yeah.
This year,
Another
right?
father figure.
Yep.
Maybe he had something kind of fatherly about him, apparently.
He does,
yeah.
Like Steve Carell, right?
Yeah, exactly. And he's a little harsher than Steve Carell.
Yeah, but the father figure.
The tough love kind of dad. And I liked Colin Farrell quite a bit too. To me, there are certain genre movies that you watch and then think to yourself, okay, this was a genre movie, but it was really about something else. And I think this has lots of kind of signifiers of theme, race, class, dirty politics. To me, it remains about a heist. This is a heist movie in which all of that just sort of enriches the context in which all this takes place, which I think will actually make it age really well. Sometimes it's by not looking at things directly and by looking at things obliquely that you get longevity. People will return to it for the heist and remember, politics were that shitty, or
that's how
people did
hard
lose
it is
kids
to
like
live in
that.
Chicago.
Exactly, yeah. People
So,
might not
is
be.
this fresh to you? Like, is this your first experience this year with this type of a narrative?
It did feel pretty fresh to me,
Okay,
actually.
because
Yeah.
to me, I watched The Chai, which is all about this.
Yeah.
This is the subject. This is the arc of it. This is the exposition. This is the inciting incident. Like, these moments, these deaths of these innocent children are the whole show. So as soon as I understood that we were dealing with dirty politics in Chicago, it was like, I've already seen this. And from then on, nothing surprised me about what was happening.
Yeah.
And I had the... I don't know if I was just being super picky or if it's kind of on purpose because McQueen is so good at these little things. But when I watched the van explode the first time, I noticed how wrong and rigid the body looked through the window. So from then I was like, I don't think he's dead. So there's just a lot of things that were happening for me internally where I was like, I can't get on board. But I am very interested in this statement you're making about how it might age. Because to me, I'm not interested in revisiting this movie. But I am very interested in people that are. Because to me, when you say revisit a heist movie, I don't think about it as a heist movie, really. Because it never felt fun, and we didn't get started with the heist really until the end. Whereas I'd rather revisit another heist movie, which is a remake of Soderbergh's Ocean's 11 called Ocean's 13, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm more interested in revisiting that, or Ocean's 8.
Yeah.
I'm more interested in revisiting Ocean's 8 than I am in this.
Yeah.
Sadly.
Yeah. Agreed. Different kind of heist movie, right?
It
Where
is, but you brought up heist, and that's just kind of what I started thinking about.
Right. Right, and, that's kind of a process-oriented heist movie, I think, right?
Yeah.
Where we're seeing...
But I definitely had more fun with the characters, whereas Elizabeth Debicki I had a lot of fun with. I liked being with her.
Yeah.
But I just did... Kind of like Outlaw King, like, the scenes just don't have something there. Like, I just... There's not something there. There's no energy for me. And I think that there might have been this energy for you.
Yeah, I think it partly stems from how good I thought it looked. Just knowing the choice to put the camera inside the van in that very first getaway scene, I thought made it riveting in a way that a lot of chase scenes aren't. The heist itself, so dark, like surprisingly dark, but the gloss of those masks, I just thought it looked great, and in a really sort of subtle way. Like these aren't the one perfect shot kind of compositions, but I just think it's really, really beautifully shot. I like the cinematography a lot, and I just think that there has to be movies that sort of document what defines a time and place without being specifically about those problems, that invites people in a different way. This is, kind of a lean and mean story about a group of women trying to shake off some people who are going to kill them if they can't get money. But I think it's interesting in a lot of ways for how it reveals what to live today feels like and what role race plays in a marriage, what class looks like between people who work together. These are, three completely different women. And, I think that's just as important of a way to sort of work through some of those issues. I don't want to call this like an issue film by any way, but I don't know. I just think it's an interesting way.
It does do interesting things with categories.
Yeah,
but like, so what you're saying, I agree with, but I also am like, but doesn't Viola Davis feel more powerful than Elizabeth Debicki? So there's more than just race going on, right?
Definitely,
because although she is the African American wife of a white man, Elizabeth Debicki is the white wife of or girlfriend of I think he might have been Mexican American.
Yeah, that's right. Sounds right. Yeah.
Or girlfriend, and she feels like she's much more the victim of him than Viola felt of Liam Neeson. So, you know, there's this interesting intermingling that I do think Steve McQueen is very good at showing how. Okay, there's this normal structure, and there are victims of the structure, but there's the total opposite, and then there's the mixed version of this, and then there's the twisted version of this, and then there's Cynthia Erivo's mom watching Cynthia Erivo's daughter while Cynthia's going to work as a hairdresser, and then right when she gets home, she gets a call that she can go work more, and then she's sprinting. Like, there is so much going on that all that stuff is interesting. The problem is that's extra textual, and the film itself, I wasn't that interested in.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I was interested in Daniel Kaluuya, but I was the most interested in Daniel Kaluuya. I was the most interested in Elizabeth Debicki. I was the most interested in side characters. Yeah. That was my problem. I love Viola Davis. I think that her performance in Fences is one of the most important of the decade so far as a lead actress, but I don't think she was particularly good here. And I don't think that was her fault. I just think that that was the restraints of the project. Yeah. Not Steve McQueen's fault, not Gillian's fault, not the book's. It just, it didn't work out on this one.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, to some extent, I think the craft just kept me so engaged. That long shot after Daniel Kaluuya and his crew pull the two guys out of that bin, right? And it's that single take where he's spinning around them as they're rapping.
That close-up look, right? No, those are the moments that make me go, this is so special. And then there's these other moments that aren't so special. And that's maybe, you know, like, it's not that I can't appreciate the form. Trust me, I just got out of The Crimes of Grindelwald. Then I had a Guinness and went back in and watched Widows. Like, I understood how much better what I was looking at was. Yeah. But it still suffered for me narratively from telegraphing what's to come. And then it didn't allow its main actress to soar in the way that she is capable of.
Yeah. Viola Davis, specifically. Yeah. Yeah. That's fair. It's weird. It is like a Liam Neeson action movie in a lot of ways.
And it's also not like that.
Well, in its being surprisingly straightforward.
No, you're right. Like, it is like that, but it's also not like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Because there's not that much action with our main characters. Yeah. It's Daniel Kaluuya's character that is really causing the action. Yeah. Oh, and I loved our driver character. I really enjoyed his performance.
While he's around.
Great performance while he was around. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and I might watch it a little bit differently the second time, knowing that Viola Davis is not just a widow, but also a grieving mother. She is now truly alone. We don't know that right off the bat in the first viewing of this movie.
When did you know that she knew Liam was alive?
Probably not right until I don't. It hadn't crossed my mind until she goes to Carrie Coon's house.
Okay, but like from then on, you know that she knows, right?
Yeah.
Because she didn't open the door on purpose.
Definitely.
Okay. Yeah. So, did that shift? For me, that shifted why she was doing the job. And then we understand it at the end, right? When she says that there's this money under the table. Yeah. And I was like, thank you for doing that. You know, like that needed to happen, or else I wouldn't have given it as much grace as I gave it. Like, I needed her to have her own independent reason as a person for doing what she did.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because she could have just given the journal up and been done with it. She had the opportunity multiple times. But to get the money for herself, I needed to see what she was going to do with it.
Yeah.
And that was a nice payoff.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, I don't think I could take it up to a 5, and it could come down to a 4. But pretty solid. I liked it pretty well.
It's absolutely worth watching. I don't think it's gonna win any Oscars. I wouldn't be surprised if it got nominated because it's Viola.
Yeah.
But it's if it wins, it stole something from another picture.
I don't know that it'll win anything either.
But if it did, right? Like it would be stealing straight up.
Yeah. Maybe like gosh, is it the which guild gives a like best ensemble award? I could maybe see it getting that.
I thought the Academy gave best ensemble. I thought Spotlight won that.
I don't know if they. Maybe it's one of the not televised awards or something.
Oh, there are lots of those.
Yeah, exactly. I could maybe see it winning that. I'm trying to think about what else there is, but I don't know. I just
ensemble,
there's such a campaign for it. I feel like I've been to like a dozen websites, where the wallpaper is widows for 10 categories or something. I'm like, I don't know about that.
I could see maybe something technical like lighting. Like I feel like the lighting was really consistent throughout this picture.
Yeah.
But yeah, it never out ensembles First Man, and it never will.
Yeah.
First Man has Christopher Abbott, so
he's
First
solid.
Man wins.
Great actor. Well,
it's good. It's a high 3.
Check it out for yourself, folks.
High 3 for me.
There you go.
Low 4.5 from you.
Yeah.
Possibly a 4.
Yeah, somewhere in there. Yeah.
To Indiana we go.
Let's do it.
Run! Go! Get to the chopper!
We have to go.
I'm coming with you.
That was brilliant.
To beautiful Monrovia.